Hi, you guys. I'm Phil Town from Rule 1 Investing, and today I want to talk to you about why investing is the best way to build wealth. It's been said that you can't save your way to wealth, and historically, low interest rates of the last decade, they definitely bear this truism out. Those who kept money parked in a CD or money market account between 2010 and 2017 may find that these funds have far less purchasing power today than when they were first deposited, number one, and second, they're hardly any bigger than you started with, all due to the growth-killing combination of low returns and moderate inflation. First, you guys, compounding is incredibly powerful. Albert Einstein famously has said that the power of compounding mathematically is one of the things he never really figured out. It's just not very intuitive that you can start with a little bit of money here, and as you go forward in time, the value of that amount of capital starts to just go insanely up, like some sort of a hockey stick. So much of the growth of the assets that you're investing in your initial investments comes from the compounding power of stocks. Stock market is a compounding machine. And what that means is when you're investing in a company like Apple Computer, that doesn't even really produce much in the way of dividends. I guess they've started to, but for many years they didn't produce a dividend, which is of course them handing the investors back some of their money. Apple kept the money in and grew money on the money that they kept. So let's say they had $1,000 of equity in Apple, and they were growing that money, are you sitting down, at 30% a year, which is the return on investment equity that these guys have at Apple. So 30% a year, that means after a year, you've got $1,300 of equity sitting in Apple. But they're growing that equity at 30% a year, right? So the next year, they're doing 30% on the original $1,000, which is another $300, and 30% on the new $300 from the year before, which is another $90. So you can start to see that 30% applied to the growth of all the money inside Apple creates this incredible compounding power. It's a stunning thing what happens when you double money over and over again. It just gets so huge you can't believe it. $1,000 doubled just 20 times. $1,000 doubled 20 times is $1 billion. $1,000 doubled just 10 times is $1 million. Think about that for a second. Apple is growing money, compounding at 30% a year. If they were compounding at 30% a year, they're doubling the money every 2.5 years. So in 5 years, they've doubled twice. In 10 years, they've doubled 4 times. So the $1,000 became 2, then 4, then 8, then 16. So you're going to see this enormous rise based on compounding the money that's sitting in Apple. And after a while, these assets start to reach a kind of critical mass. Apple right now, man, an investment in Apple back in the year 2000 is worth millions. Just $1,000 is worth millions and millions of dollars from the compounding power of that stock. So you're going to be able to take advantage of this with Rule 1 investing by learning to invest in companies that generate a great deal of compounding power. So what this means is you need to get an early start on investing. You got to get going, because the longer you put off building your wealth, the more you're going to have to put away later to hit your goals. And that gets harder and harder to do. Even if you can only afford to invest a small percentage of your paycheck, having the power of time and compounding, giving it to a company like Apple to grow, when you've got that on your side, man, you can actually do amazing things over a 30-year investing life. So while a 25-year-old will need to set aside $500 a month to reach $1 million at retirement, that assumes a very modest 6% return. Somebody who doesn't begin saving until 40, you got to save $1,000 a month to reach the same goal. All right? Believe me, if you can get your rate of return up around 20 to 30% like Buffett, I'm telling you, you don't need a lot of money to start with. You just need to start. Just get $100 in there. So starting the compound interest process early is also going to give you the flexibility to reduce your investment contributions when you run into financial stress, right? If you get that early money in there, it's growing. You don't have to worry so much about $500 a month later on. The earlier you begin, the sooner each month contribution begins to make up an increasingly compounding percentage of the total invested assets. The key is to get in early. So in the investment context, mostly risk and return are correlated, right? Particularly when it comes to low risk investments. You're gonna get a financial product with a guaranteed rate of return like a CD or a money market account, a bond from the federal government. You don't have much risk at all of having any loss of your capital, but you're also not gonna get a rate of return that even maybe beats inflation. Now you go the other way and you invest in individual stocks, you're gonna have significant price fluctuations in the short term, but also if you're buying companies that are wonderful and you're buying them on sale, you're gonna have the best opportunity for massively beating inflation in the long term and creating a great retirement. So many people who avoid the stock market are afraid, they're worried about losing their hard-earned money with a bad stock pick. They look at companies maybe like Enron or WorldCom as big examples of the dangers of stock market investing. And look, nobody's gonna get it right all the time, but these kinds of unfortunate situations just, they kind of illustrate the risk of investing in a company that you don't understand or something you haven't fully researched or aren't at all representative of the kinds of investing that we do. Really good investing is all about the certainty that down the road 10 years, that company is going to be worth more than it is today. Look, true investment risk comes from not knowing a business's value, and educating yourself on the business's fundamentals can all but eliminate both the perceived and the actual risk. Warren Buffett has said that diversification is just protection against ignorance. And he lives out this advice by holding about 70% of his investment dollars in just a few companies that he knows and he trusts. If you compare the price of a loaf of bread, a gallon of gas, a pair of new shoes 36 years ago to today, you're going to quickly see that merely doubling your investments over the next 3 decades isn't going to be enough to maintain your purchasing power. You're going to need more help. In fact, you're going to need to identify investments that can maintain a steadily high rate of return and ensure that the money you set aside is compounding as hard as possible. Historically, the stock market, individual companies, have been the only investment option that offer double-digit rates of return. Over the past 90 years, the S&P 500 index has returned an average annual gain of about 7%, and investing in individual companies can significantly increase this rate of return. Over that same period of time, Warren Buffett has averaged about 21%. At 7%, you double your money every 10 years. At 21%, you double your money every 3.25 years. Unbelievable the difference that makes in your life. Rule number 1 investing assumes a target of 15%, right? Staying invested for the long term, taking the emotion out of the equation by doing your research first, being patient, waiting for the opportunity to buy great companies when they go on sale allows you to ride out year-to-year fluctuations and not worry about what the market's doing. And over time, you are going to get rich. Warren has said once that all you have to do is focus on finding 20 companies over your lifetime. And if only 4 or 5 of those are really successful investments, you can't help but becoming wealthy. I love that. And I want that for all of you guys. But first, you gotta have to learn how to do it. Learn Rule 1 investing. We'd love to hear from you. Are you building your wealth for the future? Leave a comment below with your answer and I'll be sure to follow up with you. And thanks for watching, you guys. Now go play. If you enjoyed this video and you feel it was valuable in teaching you more about how to build wealth by investing, hit the like button and please share this video with your friends. And if you want more investing content, subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the button on the screen for a free gift. Thanks again for watching.